pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, everyone. Anybody have any questions on the agenda? Motion to approve the agenda is revised. Bill, second. Rob, all in favor? 7-0. Janice, any statements from residents?
No.
First on the list then is the student and staff recognitions.
It gives me a great deal of pleasure. Our football team has had just an outstanding season, led by Coach Milheiser, and I'd like to introduce our athletic director, Mr. Passamonte, to make some recognitions of the outstanding accomplishments of our football team.
Thank you, Mr. Lederer. It's nice to be up here a couple weeks later after we recognize the girls cross-country team for their state title to recognize the football team. As everybody knows, the football team won their third consecutive Long Island championship in Division 4 2 weeks ago. And last night they were awarded the Rutgers Trophy for the best team in Suffolk County. So at this time, I'd like the guys, please, to come on up and stand in front here, the entire team. And we'll recognize them. Coach, you got to organize these guys over here, mate. Kind of like a semicircle there, guys. Follow the table right around. I would just like to run down a few items here and accomplishments from the last 3 years. 3 consecutive Suffolk County Division 4 championships. 3 consecutive Long Island Division 4 championships, 3-year record of 34-2, 2016 Rutgers Trophy, as I just mentioned, as well as 2014. SWR is only the 4th school in the 25-year history of the Long Island Championship to win 3 consecutive titles. Chris Gray and Ethan Wiedeker are 2016 first team All Long Island honors. 6 players on this team: Chris Gray, Ethan Wiedeker, Kevin Cutinella, Dean Stalzer, Chris Sheehan, and Danny Cassidy were members of all 3 championship teams. Dan Curtin this year was the offensive MVP for the Long Island Championship. Chris Gray was a finalist for the SIP Award, which is Suffolk County's best running back. He was a finalist for the Cassis, which is the best defensive back. He was a finalist for the Hanson for the best player in the county, and he was MVP for the county championship game. Ethan Wiedeker was the 2016 Bob Zellner Award winner for the best lineman in Suffolk County, 2016 co-winner of the Rob Burnett Defensive Player of the Year Award, and also defensive MVP for the Long Island Championship. Congratulations. I would also just briefly like to run down, guys, when I call your name, just put your hand up. It's hard for everybody to see. Members of the team that are in attendance tonight: Xavier Arline, Mike Kazaza, Matt Zahn, Jack Logan, Jake Meeker, DJ Brown, Ethan Bomack, Ryan Letta, Kyle Bowden, Tyler McCauley, Ryan Malahy, Alex Angerman, Rocco Caputo, Dean Stalzer, Charles Caputo, Ryan Condon, Nick Surdock, Shonda Phillips, Charles Doolin, Chris Gray, Kevin Cutinella, Chris Sheehan, and Ethan Wiedeker. Also in attendance tonight are Coach Milheiser, Coach Wiedeker, Coach Smeraldo, and Coach Smith. Thank you all. Great job, guys. Guys, before you take off, after I release you here, you're going to get a picture here with this woman. We'll take it out in the, where would you like?
Why don't you do it here?
You want to do it here? All right, let's do it here.
Anybody else who wants pictures, take them now.
Yeah.
We'll take a break.
Okay, guys, if you can, some of you have.
We'll send out for pizzas.
Tell us how she really feels. Some of you looking forward to your. Did you?
They want us to stand up.
Yeah, bring the trophy over.
But Bill is standing.
Gotta bring it up. Come on.
Okay, everybody look away. With the cap, make sure that I can see you, okay? All right, look over here, guys. There's a little bit. You might jump in.
Yeah, 2 more.
I think I go up theoretically 6'6". I think I go up to this one.
Everybody, can you see me perfectly? All right. 1, 2, 3. Coaches are in there too, right? 1, 2, 3, and one more. Let's just take one more just to be sure.
Congratulations, guys.
The baby was great. Listen, she won't miss anything. There was a board meeting here. Take care, boy. It's empty now.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so, right, this is, yeah.
My work for local paper. Yeah, probably. And I'm unfortunately, I don't have to curb my tongue.
Oh, yeah, it's a shame. It sheds some we can do like acquisition.
Are you guys doing all the tables or you want to?
Are you doing all the tables?
They give you a tip.
Sure, I'll give you tips.
You have another hurricane, so we need no power, we need power from school. Kids aren't coming in.
Ready? We're ready.
All right. All good?
Yeah.
On to old business. It's more of a housekeeping item than old business. We, from time to time, get requests from the podium. And the board has gotten into the habit of approving requests from the podium when you agree with something. Council has asked us not to do that in the future, to take all requests under advisement, put them on for the following board meeting, because every request comes with some back office work by administration. Sometimes we need legal opinion from council, and we apparently are creating problems for them by approving things from the dais. So going forward, anybody who makes a request from the podium, even if we agree with you, we're going to put it on the following meeting so that administration and district council can do their thing.
Okay, John, I'll take that under advisement.
Thanks, Jack. Further review. Next are reports and reviews. Mr. Lederer, Superintendent's report.
It's dry. Last Wednesday, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention presented to community members and staff that was present, and there were over 100 people in attendance in a high school auditorium. The focus of the presentation was on teen depression and suicide risk, identifying warning signs and risk factors for teenage suicide, and ways to approach a child to talk about depression and suicide. I thought it was an excellent presentation for our parents, and from all reports, it was well received. This was part of a speaker series, which is co-sponsored by PTA Council in our district, and we're looking for other presentations. The next one, we believe, will be in mid-January. Our high school students have participated in workshops offered by Responsive Suffolk County, post-vention strategies and resources on grieving and loss, and our principals and pupil personnel professionals attended a recent workshop given by the Employees Assistance Program on responding to student crisis. The middle school concert is tomorrow night here in the high school auditorium at 7 p.m. Responsive Suffolk County will also present to middle school students at assemblies next week. The Wading River Winter Concert is scheduled for Wednesday, December 14th in the high school auditorium, 6:30 for 4th graders and 8 p.m. for the 5th grade. This Friday is Gingerbread University Night, sponsored by the Wading River PTA. Parents and their children who attend will build a gingerbread house. And after my water experience, I'm not going near that. Miller Avenue, during December, students will participate in random acts of holiday kindness. And the evening elementary parent-teacher conferences are scheduled from 6 to 8 p.m. this Thursday. Thank you.
Next is we have a bond update from the district architect, as well as from Park East, BBS and Park East. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us tonight. We gave, as a handout on your front of you that we dropped at each of your desks, and if you don't mind, I'm going to use that to kind of just follow along, and the guys will jump in where they can. So just taking you through where we are in the bond up until this point, Phase 1 is complete. That was your high school roof, the new turf field, and the tennis courts. Phase 2 is complete. The high school corridor lockers, the library flooring, the new turf and tennis court lighting, and the partial site construction at Miller Avenue and Wading River. Over the past couple of months, we've been, as you know, bidding the Wading River and Miller Avenue projects. And as a committee, I believe you were able to meet last night and really go over the bids as they've come in. I'll tell you a little bit more about that too. That's about over $20 million worth of work. And if you are in the position, and I think you will be easily able to award those, I think Thursday night, and we'll discuss that with you a little bit here. That's about 64% of the bond will be complete in that award. So you're 2/3 of the way through the bond referendum when you award those two big projects. They were the meat of the entire bond. In addition, when you make that award, and I'm just going to give you some general facts and we can get into a greater discussion of that, but in actuality, when that's awarded, you're 64% of the way through the construction costs, but you are still in great position with all the other projects. If you are feeling as if it's slightly over budget or in budget, we'd like to say it's absolutely in budget in totality of the bond. Because we have, as you know, design contingencies and all that stuff we've been talking about for years. And when you look at the remaining amount of design, construction, and escalation contingencies that would be available for you for the remaining 36%, you're in great shape. So that's a good start. I think it's pretty amazing that you've had such great news here tonight. But I just thought as you position yourself into Thursday night, you need really a lot of background to that, and both Ken and Derek can help you. And as you know, we had a presentation to you a number of months ago about your building aid. And at that time, we made a recommendation to you to allow us to continue to fight for your building aid based upon the idea that it was a past practice, not that you had an ongoing practice or policy of class size policy. And because of that and the change in state education department tenor, that's a good word, I think. We've been able to get you additional building aid, which is $927,000 in additional building aid. The building aid that you were getting up until that point was just a little over $600,000 and was for a couple of classrooms in one room. What this did, based upon our knowledge of the past practices, got us building aid for all 8 classrooms that are being proposed and the multipurpose room, which is the maximum we could get for the entire project. So thank you for allowing us to represent you and taking a chance with it, because your chance paid off. You kept moving ahead, and it benefited by almost $1 million in aid. I think those 2 projects are awardable for you again, as I said on Thursday night. And if there's questions on that, we'd be happy to answer them. I don't know if you wanted to digress there, but we can. I'm going to let Ken take you through the rest of the phases, because these are your next projects that we're designing. That, you know, we're back in 3, phase 3, phase 4. Things are moving still. So let me let Kenny take you through those.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah. I got it.
Is that on the list?
We didn't build that, did you?
That's phase 7.
There were other components in phase 2 that we have received SCD approval on, and that we will be moving ahead to bid in the immediate future. That includes the windows and exterior door replacement at the high school, window and exterior door replacement at the middle school, partial roof replacement at the middle school, running track replacement at the middle school, and the district-wide foam replacement. Those projects total about $4.8 million for the next round of bidding. Following that is the additions and alterations at the middle school. We are just kind of trying to finalize some of the last design components of that and completing the construction documents for SCD. And then following that, probably in early January, late January, we'll start the design development meetings for the high school and the fitness center. Fitness center is comprised mostly of capital projects, and the high school is additional capital projects, some significant interior renovations also. So we are in good shape moving forward here too.
I came tonight, just the last page of your handout is the budget update. Not much has changed since the last time we met. In the event you had questions regarding contingency, I think it would be more relevant once a scope is decided upon by the board, to talk how that affects the overall budget.
I think we have questions regarding the projects we're going to look to award on Thursday night. So everybody stick around, because I guess depending on the decision we make, may affect what projects we can or cannot complete going forward. So,
But can I address that just a quick second?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, in the scenarios that you are evaluating to award, which would be, I think you have from your committee meeting last night, you have a sense of what the levels of those are. I would have to tell you that in the discussion of taking those and adding them to what the scope of the bond was, does not prohibit projects in the future from moving ahead. What it does make you wonder and pay attention to is the amount of contingency money that you're utilizing to accomplish those projects. The basis of a bond referendum is, and this is kind of like a historical moment, you take the total amount of the bond, but in actuality, there is a certain amount of design contingency, we've mentioned construction contingency and escalation. In the total bond, those 3 things are worth about $5.2 million. And we've got all the backup paperwork that's in that package. So I know you're not preparing to do anything tonight, but this is great reading for later on tonight, if you feel so inclined. But it'll explain to you how those things are compiled. So let me go back to what I mentioned earlier. In one of the scenarios that you are contemplating, which I think is your least the lowest denominator, I'll call it, of scenarios to award, that would be 64% of the construction costs of the bond accomplished. So just imagine 64%. And really, when we're talking about construction, total construction-related expenditures, you'll be in the 30s, because you still have the design contingencies and fees to contend with. We're always holding soft costs and fees to the side. We're always talking about at this point that you're not attacking those, and your soft cost number is 6% across the board. What we find is most of our districts spend between 3.5% to 4.5%, not 6%. But I'm not asking you to touch that pot just yet, just being honest with you with what that pot is. That pot's not in discussion in what you're trying to accomplish in your award. So now, if you are awarding for potentially more than what you were anticipating, it would be really great to be at 64% of the bond and have used up 64% of your contingencies. You're just about within that, within a point or two, in the lowest scenario.
Just to give this conversation some context, Space and Facilities Committee met last night.
Yes, sir.
We were given four different proposals, just for the sake of everybody watching at home.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So the base bid came in, and it was $920,000 over what the projection was.
Correct.
Then we were given the second scenario, which included the addition of bollards at Miller Avenue and Wading River, filling in the skylights at Wading River, and adding leaders and gutters to Miller Avenue. That increased the base bid by $60,000.
Yep. Yep.
Scenario number 3 were those 3 items, together with converting the all-purpose room to a music room at Wading River, at an additional cost on top of the 60 of $612,000. And then scenario number 4 that was presented to Space and Facilities were those 4 items, together with converting the music room that has now been put in the all-purpose room into individual instruction space. And because I believe the bid would go to a different contractor, then the total of those 2 items came out to be just about $900,000. So it was additional $300,000 above and beyond base scenario number 3.
That's correct.
So that's the backdrop to all of this. So when that is all added together, we're at a $2 million shortfall over initial projections. And the question that came up is, that $2 million, will that preclude $2 million of future work?
The answer is no, because when we take a look at those dollars, if you're taking extra dollars to support a project, we want you to take those from your design contingency monies first. It's not, because all your other projects still exist and their value still exists. So if there's a project in phase 3, 4 that's there, its value to do the work is still intact. What you're now doing is going to the extra pot of contingencies and saying, out of my $5.2 million, can I grab some of that and support some of my other projects that I'm doing? When you do that, and I'm gonna use numbers that I hope make sense. We've been debating how we could explain this easiest to you. If contingencies and escalation were 5% design, 5% construction, 4% escalation, if you remember all those numbers. Those are things we kept using. So you have about 14% on top of every job you're trying to do. But now, if you go grab some of that pot, how much is left of 5, 5, and 4? Depending upon which one you pick, about 13. You pick another one, it's about 9. You pick another one, it's about 8. So that means every project I've still got intact. I've still got every project for design in the phases 3 and 4 intact, but I have about 8% to support it. I don't have 14% to support it. So is that a bad place? Not at 64% of the project being awarded. It's not a bad place. What it means is we take a look at every one of those remaining jobs and absolutely stay within the realm of what the original project scope should be. You can ask for, let's say it was going to renovate this room, and we meet and they say we'd like to do the next 2 rooms. That's called an add alternate and an add alternate. The work scope was to stay within a certain thing, and we try to stay very definitively within that and would present that to you. But the dollars to do all the remaining work, plus about 8% or 7 to 8% minimum, is still intact. So that's how you're making your decision. You're not taking away. Today, you're not saying, I won't get that done.
But we are saying that we won't be able to do like we did here and put additional alternates on future projects.
You can put alternates, but we're going to hold that base scope real tight.
And it also, because the bond money is limited, that's less of the B items that we will get to down the road in the event that there's money left over.
That's possible.
We don't have a lot of B items, though.
What?
We don't have a lot of B items in the bonds. We didn't-
But if we spend $2 million now, it's $2 million that we do not have available to us when we start doing phase 3, 4A, 4B, and anything that's left over in the B list. I'm just trying to explain it. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. That's the backdrop. That's a discussion we had last night. And anybody has questions going forward now based on that scenario, I just want to let you know what the discussion we had last night and where we fell.
And I appreciate it, and that's why I wanted to give you back. I don't want you to have the trepidation of a ward that says, I won't accomplish everything in the future. That's not the decision that's happening tonight. I can't tell you the future, neither can you.
And we want to give as much information as we can because we put it on for Thursday night so everybody can
Right.
digest what's given tonight. And if they have comments for the board, they can, send us emails or whatever over the next couple of days, come to the meeting on Thursday night, just so we get as much response from the community as we can.
We've had the opportunity, at least the team has had the opportunity, both through Park East and BBS, to meet and vet out each of the contractors who would be low bid contractors available to your project. It's also good to know that there's our known quantities, and at this point, we would say capable quantities of being able to do the work. So that's not a trepidation I could bring you tonight. If I was feeling uneasy, I would be giving, I know the TV probably can't see me at the moment, but I might be giving you a different signal that maybe Thursday night isn't supposed to be easy, because we might say that's not going to be a good thing to award because we're already going into an issue. That's not visible to us, and it shouldn't be a problem moving ahead for you in that decision too. So I want to paint as much of the positiveness of the project. You have everything you asked for and then some, and then some more. And that's not a bad place to be at this point. And we just have to be just as diligent as you in looking at your projects in the future. If things come in under budget, they're only to your benefit. If they come in over your budget, we're going to keep holding that they don't go greater than 7 or 8% in total if you pick that project. One of the other things that you are going to get ready to bid and award another $4 million. And those are big. Those are window jobs. So they're going to tell a lot of story again about different numbers. The scope of those really don't change.
Is the risk of those for contingencies as well as construction design limited or low, you would say?
They're still, now since they're coming up, they're going to have their about 8 to 13% instead of the 14 sitting on top compounded. So they're going in a little tight, but it's, those are not things that you're going to all of a sudden, you'd like to have more windows.
Right.
I have windows, I'm replacing my windows. So we're not expecting that you're going to say to us, we'd like to replace the windows we don't have. So those will stay kind of finite in their scope, but that's another, now that's going to put you at 30 million, over $31 million worth of constructible work out of a total of about 37 or 38 worth of total work, 41. So the other thing that's important is I think the spreadsheet that Derek's been carrying in the back of this is extremely beneficial. We really like the format. It's not a format that we get very often, but it lets you see the money in every column. So that thing I'm talking about, 4, 4, or 5 and 4, it's all there. You can see the monies, and then it shows you what's left and where you're taking that from. I can't, let me give it to you another answer. I don't think we can do better than where we are. We're not going to go back out to bid and get a better cluster of contractors and get it for less unless you take scope out. So it's a matter of making a decision and moving ahead and feeling positive about how you move ahead.
Questions? I want to open it up to the few people who are here as well. Anybody?
I think those sheets will help you in your decision process in the next couple of days.
Henry, do you have this? We just got it. Mr. Henry's in charge of the Space Facilities Committee.
Sure, sorry.
I have one question while everyone's standing there nicely. The all-purpose to music room and the music room to small instructional space, can you just explain, I know it was an alternate, what led that charge as far as the design?
Yeah, that came about during the design development phase, through some of the spatial planning, I think between the staff usage of the space, maybe the principal, some of the curriculum administration team, I think kind of looked at that as an opportunity as a spatial concern. I think there's about 80 students in the music program. They don't really fit well in the existing music room, so it turned out to be an opportunity. We always knew it was outside of the bond, would always end up being an ad alternate, but was an opportunity to provide a better educational space for those music students. So it was a room that we were renovating in the base bid for ceiling and air conditioning. So it just rolled into being further developed for a large music room, 3 practice rooms. We had to create a new egress corridor, which led to renovating partial area of the custodial space. And then a fallback was to convert the existing music room into small group instruction spaces. So that's kind of how it fell out.
And adding the additions to the scope of the project wouldn't prolong the construction?
No, the duration remains the same, whether that's included or it's not included.
So if you're at option 3 with just all-purpose to music, what happens with small group instruction? Do they still have capability? Do they have space for that?
In option 3, I think the district would just utilize the existing music room as is without any renovation and make do with the existing configuration.
Right. So they have no space for small group in their current configuration.
I'm not sure where they house that. They might be in little alternate rooms.
Alan, do you know where they?
There is some room for small space instruction, but based on the numbers that we're looking at for spaces, those additional spaces would be able to make sure that we had adequate space going forward that was of the correct size and to be able to meet the needs of all of our AIS programs, resource room, a testing room, ESL, and math and reading AIS.
Doing the math, it looks like if we accept option 4, we're almost getting a discount on the construction of the all-purpose room, because it's going with the lowest bidder, right? So
Yeah, it's just the difference in the contractor's approaches to those alternates. By moving to that scenario, it does bring in a different mechanical contractor.
But your general contractor stays the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's 612, it's 475. 473.
Yeah, well, that's 612 is ridiculous.
I'm just gonna add this back in, and I brought it up earlier, but this is also an evening where you're ahead while you feel you're behind.
Explain.
Because a week ago, you didn't have an additional $1 million in building aid. Now you're going into this with an additional $1 million in building aid that wasn't anticipated. When you told these projects to move ahead, you didn't have that money. Now you have that. And I think that you need to kind of weigh that within the value. You might be feeling different, but I would have come tonight and said you don't have it. Wouldn't have mattered, because basically that's how you moved ahead.
Do we have it, or is it promised for us? Do we have it, or is it promised for us?
As with all things in state ed.
Listen, it's in writing. It's not bad.
But it's not coming as a lump sum. It's going to be spread out over a number of years.
Right. And it's against your debt service, et cetera, but, you know.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I don't think you'd say no. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to figure out which one of those.
Pick one of these Thursday night.
And just let us know. We are prepared with our letters of award because the vetting has been done. So we are prepared to get those to you and keep your process moving for Thursday night.
Since you're here, can you just give us a brief timeline? If it's awarded Thursday night, when do we expect contracts, when do we expect construction?
If you award Thursday night, we'll deliver letters of intent by the next day because the schedule is a very tight schedule to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish. They have a contractual deadline for September 1 of 2017. Every contractor has committed to accomplishing it by that date, but recognized at the same time it was very aggressive, especially depending upon how the winter treats the constructability of the first aspects of construction, being the concrete in particular. I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
Just a basic timeline. I mean, they're going to break ground the day school.
Yes.
Is there anything that's going to be accomplished ahead of
It's going to
time?
be weather contingent, and it would be probably, we're hoping for January to be breaking ground. In order to meet the schedule, they're going to have to be very aggressive with getting into the ground. That's the first part of the construction process. The first part of the construction is going to be the new additions, and then the summer work is all the interior renovations. So that's going to really be phase 2 of the project. So we're hoping if you award Thursday, it takes a couple weeks for insurance, submittals to follow shortly thereafter. We're looking for all expedited turnarounds, whether it be the contractor providing the submittals, the architect approving the submittals. Most of the contractors, if not all, are using specified materials, which helps that process drastically. So in a perfect world, we would be digging the holes the beginning of January and then pouring the concrete as we could. They have accounted for winter protection and other items that help with pouring concrete in the cold weather so that